What do you think of these Mariners, Harold?
Tell you what, I'm surprised. I really am. Beginning of the year, I thought that's really what we were going to get. No offense, great pitching, but they've really turned it around. I got to give them credit. I mean, it's been fun to watch.
And I was watching you guys yesterday, Harold, talk about Cal Raleigh, who's obviously been the force behind so much of this. If there was a MVP vote in baseball, I think he'd have to be on just about anybody's top 5 ballot. No question about that. And you were also talking about, geez, maybe there's a time to give Cal a little bit of rest and pick your spots here and there because of everything that is required of him. What jumps out to you the most about what Cal is doing?
Well, obviously the power is the first thing everybody's going to look at, but the innings he's logging behind the plate, healthy, making all the calls, making all the plays long. That's why I was kind of leaning yesterday like, hey, he's going to have to get some time to just pick the right days off so he can be able to keep and sustain this the whole year. And I think having Dan Wilson really benefits him. You know, with Dan's been there, he's been through that grind of a season, what it takes to win a championship. And I'm sure Dan, as most players, probably fought for days off. Like, I don't want to be off. But he looked back and realized later it's probably the best thing. So I think they're going to have to pick days for Cal. You know, a day game where you get a travel day the next day and really gives him basically 2 days off. So that's what they're going to start doing.
You know, it's interesting, the guys that are such great hitters at that position over the years, and I guess I'm thinking about Joe Mauer, Buster Posey, Mike Piazza. I mean, you kind of go over it. Eventually, they almost become too valuable offensively to catch. Do you think that could happen to Cal at some point where we start seeing him play first base or DH significantly more often?
Yeah, that's going to happen. Just the bat allows you to do a lot of things with him. If he wasn't hitting, then that's a whole different dynamic. But all of them have done that, and I think that's the advantage of the DH. I would say, you know, it being in the American League, now it's in both leagues, but the designated hitter can be used that way. A lot of teams use it where they give guys a day off and it's still keeping that bat in the order. But Cal's athletic enough; he could play first base if need be. But I think that's down the road a little ways. I don't even think we're in that conversation yet.
Former Mariner great Harold Reynolds. Just looking at it, Harold, you and Danny never cross paths in the organization, but he's been so around it for many years, and obviously you have as well. Just kind of curious as you watch these games, as you kind of get more and more and more data points about what Dan is doing, kind of now leading the ship himself fully. What jumps out to you?
Well, number one, I think he's really built a new culture of inviting guys back. I mean, you see Jay Buhner around a lot more. You see the influence of Griffey's conversations, Edgar. I think that's a big part. I think, you know, we're in a time where analytics has really driven the game quite a bit. And with that, you end up taking out a lot of the players, and it goes more to AI and everything else. I think Dan's really recognized that, and he's opened the culture. I know spring training, the vibe was totally different. The players will tell you. I think he's been a little bit more inviting to the history of the club.
You must have played against Kevin Seitzer quite a bit, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So, and
Kevin's actually one of my good friends.
Oh, cool. So, I mean, obviously a great player, and we loved getting to know him at spring training. I think he's going to join us tomorrow at this time at 7:30 tomorrow, and we're looking forward to talking to him again. When you watch this team, how much Kevin Seitzer do you see in the offense?
Oh, I see a lot. I see a lot of Kevin. I see a lot of Edgar. I think the main thing I see is putting the ball in play at all costs. And he was the guy that would shoot the ball the other way a lot. His approach was to right field, but it was really more line drives. And if you look at the Atlanta Braves teams, the last, 8 years he was there, high offense, they made contact, they're aggressive, they attack. And the biggest thing was they played every day. And, you know, that's a mindset that comes like, hey, you're teeing it up. And I know that was what Kevin grew up in. That's what most of us grew up in. And I think that's a teaching point. Like, you're not going to give up that spot. You might get a couple hits today, or even Julio, you may not think you're hitting right now, but you're affecting everybody else in the lineup by the pitches they get. So I think that's what Kevin brings to the table quite a bit.
Harold, these Mariners are a remarkable 7-1 in rubber matches in series this year, and why they've won, what has it been now, 9, 10, 11 of their last 12 series, and they've just been able to finish those off in those rubber matches. 11 of the last 13 series. Is there something to that, or will there just be kind of a regression to the mean that this is just kind of baseball, or do you see something that is leading to that level of accomplishment?
No, I think that's very wise. That's the one thing that Jerry gets overlooked. He's got this great pitching staff. He's put together the club, but I think Jerry, more than anybody, understands you win series. Baseball's built in series, 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, that type of stuff. And if you look at the Texas Rangers a couple of years ago, before they were on the map, I started saying, look out, man. They can beat you 2 out of 3. They got DeGrom. They got Evaldi. They got these guys that can beat you in the 2 out of 3 series. And that's how the game is built. And if the Mariners are going about this like we're talking about it, then yeah, that's the philosophy, and that's how you win games. So, and you win series, and before you know it, you're in the playoffs. I definitely think that's part of their attack and their understanding.
When you watch a team like them, and they've gotten hot early, right, as you said, sort of surprisingly hot offensively, and then you start to wonder, okay, are we going to see them come crashing back down to earth, or is there a confidence that develops when a team has some early success? Based on your years, what can early success do for a baseball team?
Oh, it's huge. Over the 162 games, it kind of sets the trend for the rest of the summer. Nobody likes to get out the gate slow. Then you're fighting the whole way through the season. You can almost get out of the gate fast like they're doing right now and ride it. You don't want to get into a lull, but you turn the corner. There's a 5-game losing streak coming for everybody in 162 games. Look what the Dodgers are going through. You're gonna go through it. But if you already have that great out the gate mindset, you're winning games. You know how to win games. That sustains you when you go through that one bad stretch that's coming.
When Harold Reynolds does his job on a daily basis there at MLB Network with your partners, and you walk through games and such, what are the first things that you kind of look at numbers-wise, Harold? If you go to a Mariners game and play in Houston tonight and the game ends or what have you, and you're not watching every pitch and every inning of it, and the game ends and you just kind of want to dig into what happened, where do you go?
I first go to see how many pitchers did they use, because that game is now over, and I'm thinking about tomorrow's game. That's how I look at one. If I go back and look at the game that was just played, obviously you're going to look at the scoreboard and see how things happen. But I always want to look at hits. How many hits did you get? How, and then you look at errors. How many mistakes you made? And a lot of times that doesn't even show up, particularly as you guys know, you go watch your kids' games, right? And then you're talking to them, and you got to put things in perspective. And I think that's the best thing that happens as you get older. You're able to see things from a different lens and perspective-wise. Like, hold it, you hit 3 balls on the nose. I know you didn't get any hits, but you swung back great. And that's what builds to the next day. If you didn't, then we got work to do, So that perspective has always helped, and I think that's kind of how I look at the Major League game, too. I look at what the Orioles are doing right now. They're scuffling as a team, but they can't put together anything consistently or consecutively. You'll get one guy gets a hit in the 9 spot, and from 5 to 9 in the order, nobody's doing anything. So let's figure out how to get things going as a unit. And so that's kind of how I look at it.
I'm imagining you going to the box score every day looking for errors and being like, yet another day where no scorekeeper in all of baseball assigned an error, even though there could have been probably 12 of them assigned. What do you have to do to make an error in today's game? My God.
It is remarkable.
It's ridiculous.
I'm telling you.
It's egregious.
I look at this, and I see routine ground balls, and they go, hit. I'm like, what?
Hit? Like, seriously, how did this start? It is like the most bizarre, and I shouldn't even get that mad about it because who cares? But for whatever reason, like I see these things, I'm like, that's not an error. What do you have to do to make an error?
Did you say who cares?
Yeah.
Old timers care.
I know.
Old timers care. Harold cares. Those
Don't
guys
call
have played
Harold
the
that.
game.
That's not nice.
Yeah, they care very much, right?
I just it's mind-boggling. It really is to sit there and go, come on now. And I can't believe that the pitchers aren't complaining more.
Right.
Their ERAs are just like
True.
I mean, I saw one game where I can't remember the pitcher's name off the top of my head right now, but he gave up 7 earned runs, and there must have been 2 balls that could have been caught or ruled in air that would have probably gave him 1 earnie instead of 7 or 8.
Dude, just on those lines, I asked you about Kevin Seitzer and if you had run into him. I didn't realize you guys were close friends. What about Perry Hill, who's been around forever? And legitimately, when this season started, I know we've talked about the surprise of the offense. I've actually been pretty surprised by especially their infield defense. I know they've got some different players than the original Polanco's, not playing the field, et cetera, but their infield defense was supposed to be a problem. It's been anything but, and that has been a hallmark of Perry Hill here in Seattle. How much do you know Perry?
I've come across Perry a lot through the years. Perry is the best of really what we're talking about, putting things in perspective. But his is about routine. You know, you go into your routine, you know what your plan is every day, and then you go execute. And then you talk to the official scorer and say, don't give no errors. No, I'm just kidding. No, but Perry he's really, really, he's probably the top 2 or 3 defensive guys of all time in baseball. I'm not just saying now. I'm saying of all time, with developing players, getting the most out of them. And if you look at the history of his teams, they always catch the ball.